Welcome to the Playing Hooky podcast with your hosts Rachel and Nathan, brought to you by UtilityMuffinLabs.com. Consistently rated adequate.
Welcome everybody to the Playing Hooky podcast. My name is Rachel.
I'm Nathan.
And thank you for joining us today. It's been about 2 weeks since you've heard from us.
Mm-hmm.
In that 2 weeks, a lot has happened.
A lot
has happened. For one thing, I got a new blister on my hand.
Oh.
And that is pretty noteworthy in
How did you get a new blister on your hand?
From doing pull-ups.
That's cool. What else has happened in the last 2 weeks? Just so people know, in case they're not listening to this when it comes out.
Right. I think, I don't really know. I haven't really been following the news. I'm not much of a news person.
It's been really hard to get, like, a seat at a restaurant lately, though.
Yeah, because they're all closed. So you guys know what's up. But the point of this podcast isn't to talk about that, because I think we can be a nice distraction from all of that that's going on in the world right now. I'm not trying to Voldemort it. We're talking about COVID-19 coronavirus, and it sucks. But like us, a lot of you are probably self-sequestering indoors. Maybe some of your geographies, it is a little more locked down than others. So Nate and I are being responsible adults, and we are staying in our house as much as possible, going out for walks in the beautiful springtime weather, but, avoiding large crowds, washing our hands, making sure we're keeping distance away from people. Yeah. We're not hanging out with, friends over the next couple of weeks, just to be on the safe side.
Saturday was our last kind of hurrah.
Yeah, we went to a LARP, which was very low attendance.
There was 7 people there.
Yeah, people were, So I think, everyone,
it was basically a tabletop game.
Mm-hmm. I think there's definitely some extremes that people are doing that are crazy. I think the one that pisses me off, there's two extremes, right? There's people who are freaking out and are so immobilized by fear that they're
can't leave the house.
They can't leave the house. And that's not healthy. Unless you're, an elderly person or a person with, pretty significant health conditions, and this could be deadly for you. And then there's people who are just this isn't a big deal. It's a media scare. It's the government. This is stupid. And, still basketball players, for instance, who are touching microphones, or the douchebag in the grocery store the other night who was making fun of everybody for stocking up on food, and then, shaking hands with his buddy and making fun of everybody in the checkout line.
Well,
that guy, I kind of wanted to punch him. He had a very punchable face, that guy.
It's something that you see a lot on Facebook, too. Although I've noticed in the last couple of weeks that's been kind of drowned out more and more each day. And, it's kind of one of those things where people are starting to understand, I think, that enough scientific information has gotten out there.
Yeah, enough
people to
reputable physicians. Yeah, it's not just, panic. There is some panic that people are doing, y'all don't need to be buying so much toilet paper.
Yeah, calm down. You've got to shower.
Yeah, it's the thing that really bothers me too is that it's people who are coming from, and not to sound all SJWE, but it's people coming from a significant place of privilege who have the money or the credit card capacity, the storage capacity, and the transportation capacity to be buying just gross amounts of toilet paper, cleaning products, things like that. But, when folks do that, they don't take into consideration, they're not thinking of others who can't get off in the middle of the day to go to the grocery store and buy everything. Think about the nurse, the ICU nurse, who's working 12-hour shifts, who has to work all day, and then the first opportunity she gets to leave the hospital to run to the grocery store, buy food for her family, and everything's gone. That's really shitty.
Mm-hmm.
That just kind of irritates me, because that was the situation my mom was in. She was an ICU nurse. She worked 10, 12-hour shifts a lot of the time, busted her ass, raised me by herself. And I think about what if my mom were in that situation, trying to take care of a kid, working really hard all the time. And then when she went to the first opportunity, she had to go to the store. there was nothing left because your dumbass thought you needed 50 rolls of toilet paper.
No,
so don't be like those people. Don't be like those people.
Find a balance, but most people listening to this are probably dealing with all that crap already.
Yeah.
So I guess the one bright side of this whole situation is we don't really have to play hooky.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people have been sent home and are working from home or have just been sent home indefinitely. Kind of sucks for a lot of people because there's a lot of uncertainty right now. But hopefully we can provide you with some entertainment, some of our entertainment, and give you some ideas on how you can entertain yourself. Because if you're locked in the house, there's plenty of things to watch out there, plenty of books to read, plenty of games to play. So
totally. So we'll kind of dive into the topic for today, which we're going to talk about some Coen brother movies that we had exposed each other to. I had Nate watch Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? And Nate had me watch Burn After Reading. Sorry, Burn Before Reading wouldn't make sense. So we'll get into that in a minute, but thought it would be kind of fun to tell you guys how we've been occupying our time a little bit here and there since we've been kind of stuck in the house.
Yeah.
And again, this is self-imposed and we're not like never leaving the house. We're still going out and exercising, enjoying the weather, and, going to the store, pharmacy, whatever, when we have to.
Right.
But we're being smart and we're trying not to be little vectors of disease that could potentially get some poor old person sick. Right. Anyway, so what we've been doing a lot of is catching up, rewatching shows that we really like. And we just recently finished The Wire. So it was the second time I had watched through it. You'd watched through I don't know. Yeah, I don't know how many times I've watched through it. 5 or 6 times probably total. Right. But you're the person who was like, you have to watch this. I was like, okay.
Yeah.
So when we were still dating and we were actually doing had a long distance relationship, oh my gosh, like I banged out The Wire so fast. Like I watched probably the whole series in a week. Like as soon as I got home from work, while I was cooking dinner, when I was getting ready in the morning, like I was watching The Wire. It's so good.
It's one of those shows that you just can't help but like you want to continue to watch until like it's time to sleep. Like it's really infinitely binge watchable because there's always like it's not written in such a way where it's ridiculous, but you're always wanting to know like what's going to happen next with these characters, or where's the story going, or where's the conclusion going to come, like who's going to get screwed, who's going to
right.
It's just such a good show.
It's a good crime drama. It's a good police drama. It's also like from a historical perspective, it's really interesting. It's kind of about how wiretaps and criminal investigations evolved over the years preceding and just after 9/11, and how that changed. I don't know exactly how historically accurate it is, but I think probably pretty accurate because there were real cops from the Baltimore Police Department and from newspapers, etc., that consulted on the writing of the show. And I mean, the acting is just phenomenal. And like you're watching it and you don't realize how good the acting is, but the second time through, I'm like, there's one character in the last season who is sort of like that punchable guy in the grocery store. He just had like one of those faces. And I was just like, I freaking hate that guy. Like, I can't stand him. He works for the newspaper. And I was like, he's such an asshole. And he's always got this stupid look on his face. And Nate's like, that guy's a good actor. Because you like actively hate that character,
right.
Which is exactly. And I was like, oh my God, I do. Like, he's such a good actor that I can't even think of him as a real person. I only think of the character. So it's fantastic, but if you've never seen it before, just briefly, it covers the Baltimore Police Department in the very early 2000s, and sort of a special unit within that department that works sort of parallel to to the murder, homicide and vice. So there's just this
drug, whatever.
Drugs, vice, or whatever, but it's this unit called Major Crimes. And you get to follow all of these different cops and drug dealers and criminals and all kinds of different people from different walks of life throughout the show, and kind of hear their story and watch them evolve. And It's great. So if you've got extra time and you've never watched The Wire, now is your chance. It's great. It's on HBO now. You can also watch it with Amazon Prime.
Yep.
You could probably get
that's actually a good point that a lot of people don't know, that Amazon Prime has a ton of the old HBO shows available for free with your Prime membership. So
and a lot of people have a Prime membership.
Right, The Sopranos and The Wire and Curb Your Enthusiasm and just a bunch of the older HBO shows. I don't think the newer ones are out there, but if you're like me or if you're like Rachel and you want to like go back and rewatch those cool shows and you haven't forked over the cash for HBO, a lot of you have Amazon Prime membership, so take advantage of it for free. Our TV has Amazon Prime built into it, so like we don't even have to do anything. It's like flipping a channel, but we don't have channels.
It is so easy. Yeah, it is so easy to be lazy now. It's great.
Yeah.
Another thing that we've been doing a lot of, we kind of take turns, Skyrim.
Mm-hmm.
We both have beaten that game, at least me once. You were like, I would say like if we had to award degrees, you probably have like a doctorate in Skyrim. You've played it so much.
Well, if I don't know the answer, I at least know where to find it.
Yeah.
You know?
So we're playing a lot of Skyrim, revisiting that world. I don't know what else to say, but it's funny. I've noticed that we have very, very different play styles.
Mm-hmm.
Like you are kind of, regardless of how you're shaping your character, you're definitely like a crafter and a builder.
Mm-hmm.
You're mining a lot more. You're making a lot more armor than me, and you're upgrading.
Yeah.
Whereas the way I play is just like, check it off the list, check it off the list, check it off the list.
Right, you
like,
just grind quests.
I grind out quests, and it's like, oh, you need me to collect 40 Nightshade and 40 Death Bell and 40 Nirnroot? Okay, that's what I'm going to do until I'm done.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll just be running all over the landscape looking for flowers, which is kind of what I do in real life, too. I love flowers.
It's like every time we go for a walk or go for a run, she's like, hold on, I got to take a picture of these new flowers. I'm like, they are the same flowers as yesterday.
But they look different.
But they look different. I'm like, okay.
It's true. I collect pictures of flowers. Follow me on Instagram, Rachel Science. But I think I did something in order to complete a quest, to get it off of my quest list, that you found a little reprehensible the other day.
What's that?
Remember that I just to get a quest off my quest log?
Oh yeah, I was like, oh my god, who am I sitting next to? Who am I living with?
Yeah.
Because she had gotten a quest. If I remember correctly, you had gotten a quest that had glitched out.
Right.
And there was no arrow to it. And you had asked me like, hey, where do I do this? What do I do this quest? And it was like, it was an obnoxious side quest. Like, go tell so-and-so that someone else died or something like that. Or you found their remains. Mm-hmm. But if you've played Skyrim, you know, as great a game as it is, it's got a lot of glitches. And so that particular quest had glitched out. And the only way you could remove it from your quest log, and it's her miscellaneous quest log. It's not even like a main quest.
Yeah.
Was to kill the character you had to turn the quest into. And I told her that, thinking she'd be like, well, it's not a big deal. Mm-hmm. I'll just continue to play the game because this is in no way impacting my ability to finish this game.
But in order to kill the character, I would also have to murder her in front of her son.
Well, she didn't have to. You just chose to.
I just chose to.
You just chose to murder her in front of her son.
Yeah.
And leave her son an orphan.
Mm-hmm.
And now that boy is going to end up in the orphanage in Riften.
Yeah.
And you've damned him to a life of crime. Someday, Thieves Guild, robbing people, maybe even stabbing you in the back. You have no idea.
Could be. That would be karma. It would be great. But
the only
also,
thing left for you to do is just go kill Grelod, so that he's free to not have anybody look after him.
Right. You got it. Basically, I feel really good about my choice because my quest log was cleared. Like, that's all that mattered to me. I didn't care. I don't care about these characters.
What's funny about that is that...
like, if this were Westworld, I would be the villain.
Yeah,
like,
right. Oh, no, absolutely. I mean... Come on, let's not even... Like, it's funny, though, because I've never done that in Skyrim, but I've mercilessly murdered a town because I had a 1 gold bounty I didn't want to turn in.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, well, if I murder everyone and there's no witnesses, my bounty will go away.
Let's talk about the horrible thing you did that I don't even think compares to my trying to clear my closet.
What did I do?
You got someone as your companion.
Oh, yeah, I did.
So
this was pretty bad.
I think it's in Whiterun, which is like the first city you start off in.
There's a woman in like this really badass plate armor.
There's a woman in really badass plate armor that if you befriend her, she'll become your companion and she'll like run around the world with you and help you do quests. Well, Nate was like, I don't have any way to like build this armor, but I want the kind of armor that she has. So he befriended her, took her outside of the city, murdered her, and stole her armor. All of that just so that he could get upgraded armor. And I'm like, you really like, you went through. So here's the thing is like, mine was just like utilitarian. Like, I'm just trying to complete a task. I have to just kill this one person. Okay, done. But yours took like thought and planning and scheming, which I feel is worse.
That's true. That is true. It's like I had mentioned before at a couple of other podcasts that there's another quest in Whiterun where you go. There's a Red Guard woman that's hiding in that same bar, and like I'll just like lure her out and then kill her and the guys looking for her, just so like it's even. Just it's just flip of the coin. Who knows?
It's kind of creepy how like how many choices you have in that game and how it can affect the world. Like I have had moments of clarity while I've played that game, even recently, and I think it's like my brain gets confused. Like something in my brain is telling me like recognizes that what I'm doing isn't real.
Right.
But then like it's like that weird, it's not deja vu, but you know how when you get that weird deja vu feeling and you're like, oh, this has happened again. And it's just like your brain having a hiccup. It's not because things have actually happened
it's
again.
It's like your brain gets used to operating in a certain dynamic.
Right.
In a computer game or something else.
Right. And so like I've been playing that game before and had like a sensation that like, oh, this isn't real. But like my brain interprets it as like reality isn't real for a split second. And I'm like, oh.
It's interesting that you mentioned that because on a number of occasions, like I've never played a video game and then gone and been like, ooh, I should do the violent activities that are in the game. But like I've been playing Grand Theft Auto 5 and I've been playing it, for like hours at a time. And then I'll go and experience real life and, I'll be in the car or something, or I'll be walking. And I'll see like an airplane flying. And I'll think to myself, I wonder if that's low enough to shoot down with a rocket launcher. Not because I have a rocket launcher or I'm going to get one, but just like my brain is so wired to thinking in the game context that like you have that thought and you go, oh no, I'm not. Same thing happens when I draw with an iPad. So I'll be drawing with an iPad and a lot of the programs, if you press and hold the pen, it'll straighten your line or it'll fill. And then like I'll transition from drawing to the iPad and be drawing on paper and forget that I can't just make my line straight.
Yeah.
And I'll be like, it's because this is the real world and not some device, operating externally.
This is how dumb I am or how dumb my brain is. It's like, this is a different situation, but sometimes I'll take the key fob for the car and like come to the front door and press the button. like I'm like, why isn't it on? Oh, I'm dumb. It's not how doors work yet.
Right. It's just because your brain, your brain is constantly looking for the easiest route to anything. Right. And so if it knows a shortcut, it's going to try to apply that. And it's just like, obviously you're not dumb. It's just like a fart. Like, oh yeah, I can't.
Well, but I think what I'm talking about with Skyrim, like, yes, that is a real thing. But what I'm talking about with Skyrim is like, I'm playing the game, which is a simulation. But then like my brain for a split second will like get confused and it's like giving me constant feedback. Like this is a simulation. This isn't real. This is a simulation. But then like something that'll happen and I'll be like, is this real? And I'll be like, whoa, am I in a simulation? Like it's just like, I don't know. I have like a weird sense of like almost lost reality. But only when I play that game for a long time. It's probably fatigue. It's probably not anything like I'm going crazy.
My eyes dip and then I fall into myself into a very nice slumber.
Right. Well, some of my happiest sleeping times, especially when you were working nights, like you would go and you would work all night and I would like play Skyrim usually on the weekend and I'd play until I got really tired and then I'd like fall asleep playing Skyrim and then I'd like wake up and it would still be like Skyrim music and I'd be like, oh yeah, that's the stuff.
I think my favorite part of that game is how annoyed NPCs get when you don't answer them. Like if you start a dialogue with them and then like, you know, you wait a minute or two, they'll just like get pissed off and walk away.
Or like when you enter a door and you're like, I forget her name, the one companion's with you, and then like you bump into her, Lydia, and she goes, "Oh," and you're like, "What? I didn't mean to."
I also love it when you're running down the street and, you know, you pass by one of the NPCs and you trigger them and they start talking to you and you like hurry up and run into a building, and then like because you somehow have triggered them to engage you, they're like in your zone. So like if you enter into the building, they're just in the building with you now, you know, or like if you run into your house and there's like the homeless guy begging for change and you're like, get out of my house.
Yeah.
What are you doing? Get out of here.
Yeah. Oh, such a good game. So we've been playing a lot of Skyrim. Anything else we've been doing a lot of?
I don't know. I mean,
been doing a lot of kettlebell swings in the living room.
I read an entire RPG base book in like 7 days, which was a task. I mean,
for your other podcast.
Yeah, for my other podcast. I think that might be the first time. Like I've read all of the base books that we've gone through so far, but every once, you know, like if I get to the abilities, I usually don't read them all the way through. You know, if I get to the disciplines, I usually don't read them all the way through because like I've read so many of these books. It's like it's in my head. But this time I for whatever reason I was like, no, I'm going to read every single word in this book. And yeah, it was an enjoyable experience. I should do it more often.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I think one thing I'm looking forward to in the next couple of weeks as it starts to warm up is just going for bike rides.
Oh, yeah. We could kind of talk about that too. We decided before all hell broke loose.
Yeah.
That we wanted to be adults with bikes.
Yeah, because I enjoy riding bikes, and I haven't had a bicycle in a long time. And Nate's bike was kind of old and crappy, and
well, it's not even that it's old and crappy. I'm almost 40 years old. I'm not 165 pounds, and riding a BMX bike for long distances is very taxing.
Yeah, and not gonna lie, like you riding a BMX bike with all of your tattoos and your age, it's not a good look.
No, it does make me look like maybe a little homeless and a little junky.
Yeah, like
I have all my teeth in the front, so like, you know, and they're not totally rotten out of my face, so I don't fully look like a junkie, but I definitely look like maybe a recovering alcoholic.
Yeah, or like an elder gutter punk.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Riding a BMX bike down a trail. Yeah. And I don't really care what other people think, but the truth is, it's just very taxing on your hips
and your knees.
Your knees.
Yeah.
Your ass. You know, just your back.
Not a good bike for just general exercise or fitness. So we got some new bikes, and that was super fun. I convinced you to wear a helmet.
It's just garbage.
Yeah, but it's your brain. You only get one.
Garbage. Yeah. I own a helmet, and I kind of don't want to wear it just because I want to not wear a helmet so that I crash and my brain's just splatter.
Nope, brains and teeth are the only thing you don't get. You don't get extras of.
Right.
So those don't repair themselves once they're damaged.
We were at the bike store, and I'm like, there was like one helmet. It was like pretty, just like a traditional looking helmet, kind of like a BMX helmet, like a skateboard helmet. And I was like, oh, I want that one. And you're like, that's a kid's helmet. I was like, I don't think it is. Like,
I've only ever seen kids wear them.
But needless to say, they didn't have it in my size, which is
because it's a kid's helmet.
Because I have a humongous head.
You have an adult size head.
Fucking head.
You have a grown up size head.
That's true. Yeah, that's true.
So anyway, life has changed a lot, but we've got a lot of fun things that we've done and that we're looking forward to. And now, if you care, if you're still with us, we're going to talk a little bit about Coen brother movies. So we reviewed two. Or we're going to review two. I brought to the table "Oh Brother, Where Art Thou?"
Yeah, which I had never seen before. Which
I was really surprised by because I knew you liked a lot of the Coen brother movies. I think, you know, for me, you know, Raising Arizona, Big Lebowski, Fargo, those are kind of, I guess, classics now and you know, I was in junior high school when I saw all of them for the first time. I probably need to rewatch Fargo pretty soon because it's been a long time since I've seen it.
I may have asked you this before, but did you ever watch the show?
the show.
Yeah,
no,
there's a
I
show.
never. I never watched the show, but I've heard that it was really good.
I only saw the first season. The first season was amazing. It was fantastic. I don't know what happened with the later episodes, or the later seasons, or how long it even went for. But yeah, that first season was great.
That's awesome. Yeah, we'll have to check that out sometime. But anyway, so I think Oh Brother, Where Art Thou is probably, I would say, up there with those as far as like how famous it is and the impact it made on popular culture.
I always thought it was a musical, so that's why I didn't watch it.
It definitely has music in it, but it's not a musical.
Yeah. Well, I'll say this. It has like kind of like a surreal, like almost like it's a play. And obviously that's somewhat intentional, which I found out, after I watched the movie and you kind of explained some of it to me. But I had never seen it. I just thought it was just like this weird, hokey, like musical about like the 1920s or whatever. And so I just never bothered to watch it. But I was pleasantly surprised that it's not that.
Yeah, no, so it takes place during the Great Depression, and it's loosely based, it's based off of Homer's Odyssey. And so you'll have a lot of characters in the movie that are sort of Easter eggs, or not Easter eggs, but references to characters in Homer's Odyssey. So George Clooney's character, Everett, is definitely your Odysseus character, and it's about like these three guys escape from jail working like on the railroad, basically like breaking bricks, breaking rocks, and they escape, and it's about their journey to get back home. And it's like all Coen Brothers movie, it has like a really unique balance of satire and comedy with like pretty serious subject matter. So it's really good. But like, the Cyclops from Homer's Odyssey makes an appearance, and a character played by John Goodman. Yeah. And Hades makes an appearance by a character who's represented by like the sheriff who's hunting them down. Everett eventually gets back to his wife, and his wife is kind of going through, she's being courted. So there's so many parallels. And even, I don't know if you got this, but like the blind guy on the railroad, the blind prophet who kind of like met them, that was supposed to represent like Homer. Yeah.
I wasn't quite sure because like I haven't read any of that stuff.
They didn't force you in junior high?
I'm sorry. I was getting to that.
Sorry.
I haven't read any of that since junior high.
Okay.
So it's not super fresh in my memory. I'm not, I don't normally pick up, the Odyssey and reread that.
Right.
So it's not memorized in my head, but, there were definitely.
I feel like friggin' like 1/4 of all like 7th grade language arts English classes was dedicated to that story. I feel like we studied it forever.
Sure, yeah, it could have been, but I don't. Look at all the bullshit I've put in my head since junior high school.
It's true.
I have no idea.
It's true. But anyway, so what'd you think of it?
I was really pleasantly surprised. The movie was way funnier than I thought it was going to be. It was very, I would say it definitely had that Coen Brothers style. Like obviously, they use a lot of the same actors in the movies that they make. And but I was pleasantly surprised. Like the music in it was good. And I really enjoyed it. I'm just like kind of disappointed I hadn't watched it sooner.
Right. The way it came about that I was even like, you should watch that is because you were listening to the Big Rock Candy Mountain, but it was from a recording from another show or something, right? Like,
yeah, so
it was a different version.
Was it Burl Ives? Maybe.
Yeah, but what did it come up in? It came up in some other show we were watching together.
It was on Better Call Saul.
Better Call Saul. Okay. Yeah. Oh, we got to talk about Better Call Saul too. Yeah. The people need to know if they're not watching that, they should watch it.
You're doing yourself a grave disservice by not watching that show.
There was some season in Better Call Saul where, in part of an episode, this song "Big Rock Candy Mountain" was being played, and it was a version I never heard before. I'm like, oh, I've only ever heard that from "Oh Brother, Where Art Thou?" I forget the guy's name, but he was a bluegrass singer who did a version of it for that movie. He's since passed away, and it was a very different version. And I'm like, oh, that's like from "Oh Brother, Where Art Thou?" And he's like, oh, I've never seen it. I was like, oh, you got to see it. So like the music is, I think the music is one of the characters in the movie. It's a lot of Americana, a lot of bluegrass, a lot of blues influence, African American spirituals. It's just the soundtrack is fantastic, and bluegrass. If you were into bluegrass or folk music or alternative country in like the early 2000s, it kind of had like a renaissance, like with bands like Nickel Creek and then Alison Krauss and Union Station, who was, I believe, one of the vocalists on the movie on the soundtrack. So it was a really good time for bluegrass music, and I don't know if it was just like serendipity that movie came out around that time, but yeah, there was definitely like in like American bluegrass and folk music, there was a lot of influence at that time. So I really loved that soundtrack when I was younger too.
I enjoyed I don't think it was named the same thing, but the Robert Johnson character, the blues guitarist who sells his soul at the crossroads. I enjoyed. I didn't really understand why that was included, but it didn't really like. It was just kind of like, oh, that's interesting.
Yeah,
that's
like
cool.
They pulled in a lot of things that were of that time, of that era. Like Babyface Nelson made a cameo, and anyway, so it's a good movie. So I guess what was your like overall impression? What was your favorite part? Maybe
I actually really liked the dialogue of the movie, and I liked how it was kind of like filmed in that sepia tone.
Yeah,
like it just to make it feel kind of old school. And you mentioned John Goodman, and John Goodman pops up in so many of the Coen brothers films, and he always plays just this like very bizarre, interesting character. I had mentioned to you earlier today that I wanted you to see Barton Fink. That's another one I definitely suggest you see with a John Goodman character that is really, really out there. Okay. So, but yeah, I mean, it was better than I expected. I didn't expect much to begin with, perfectly honest, but it way surpassed what I thought it was going to be. And any movie where like the Ku Klux Klan gets the shit kicked out of them is a movie I enjoy.
Right.
Like, it could just be that, and I'd be like, this is a good movie.
Yeah. I love it. I like, and I think the dialogue between John Goodman's character and George Clooney's character when they're kind of having their picnic, it's just like some of the greatest like dialogue, like, like George Clooney character Everett is very talkative, very loquacious, like very like over the top with his language and his verbiage, and then he meets this character who's a Bible salesman, and basically John Goodman's character, the Bible salesman, kind of like puts one over on them, and he like judo flips George Clooney character's like ability to like basically talk his way out of a bad situation. It's such a great scene.
Oh, and when he like whacks him in the face with the line.
Yep.
Oh yeah, it was really good. But it's weird. Like George Clooney specifically in Coen Brothers movies tends to play like these very fast talking kind of like darty characters, and I don't really ever picture him that way. And I enjoy that. It's kind of like you expect George Clooney to be like this handsome and like the type like the leading man role, but in all the Coen Brothers movies I've seen him in, I haven't seen the most recent one. I was like Hail to Caesar or something like that, but in all the other ones he plays kind of like these squirrely, definitely still handsome guys. In this movie,
smart,
he's got
but squirrely,
right. He's got the obsession with his hair, with the hair gel.
I'm a Dapper Dan man.
So yeah, it's just interesting to see actors kind of like not play to the typical in Coen Brothers movies.
Yeah, definitely. Which I think is a good segue into Burn After Reading, because that movie has Brad Pitt in it, and oh my God, like Brad Pitt plays a total dork in that movie. Like it's so great.
Yeah. I think if you really look at Brad Pitt's body of work, like Brad Pitt isn't.
I'll look at his body. No, I'm just
okay.
I mean,
me too. I mean, let's move along. But I think if you look at his body of work, he is a really great actor, but he especially thrives in a supporting role. Like when he's not the focus of the film, I think he does an exceptional job.
Yeah.
I think he really can get out there and kind of like explore his roles. I just think he's like the most handsome supporting actor ever.
Yeah, I mean, he is a leading man. Like, he definitely can carry a movie on his own, and he has. But yeah, I can't stop thinking about Once Upon a Time in Hollywood and how, as the supporting role, he definitely, I don't even know that you could call him the supporting role in that with Leonardo DiCaprio. Like, I don't think he is. He's not intended to be the focus of the movie, but he steals the show.
Right.
Like, if the roles were reversed, I don't think Leonardo DiCaprio could have played that part as well as Brad Pitt did.
But also I think the same can be said in the opposite direction.
Yeah, like I think they both, that was really well cast. Quentin Tarantino did a great job and they both played to their strengths. So, but anyway, yeah. So Burn After Reading has a lot of just really famous and incredible actors.
Right.
Like, you've got your Tilda Swinton,
who plays like the worst.
Oh,
she's so terrible.
She's like just like a stereotypical ice queen.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like that was her. I don't know what came first, if this movie came first or The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, but I kind of feel like they flow well into one another.
I've never seen that.
The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe?
I grew up reading the Chronicles of Narnia, but I've never seen any of the movies.
I saw the first movie. It's pretty good. I won't go into why. I think I don't know. I only saw the first one. I think I saw part of the second one, and I don't think it really did it for me because those books are, I think, really personal to people who read them, because oftentimes you read them when you're very little, and it requires a childlike imagination, I think, and because that is so individual to all of us, no matter what they put on screen is probably never going to be how it was when you read it, like how you imagined it.
Right.
And so I think, they're kind of damned if they do, damned if they don't, because E.E. Cummings, C.S. Lewis. Thanks. I don't know where my brain went.
It was E.E. Cummings.
I don't know. I don't know. Like, I think like my brain was like, Cummings starts with a C, E.E. Cummings, and I was like, no, C.S. Lewis.
Is that a person, E.E. Cummings?
Yeah, he's a poet.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
You have to forgive me. I don't know any writers unless they wrote game books or they wrote Stephen King. So
anyway, I think C.S. Lewis like wrote those specifically for children, and because of that, I don't remember the point I was going to make next, but it doesn't matter. I think it's hard to take those movies and put them on a scale that could really match your imagination. They did an amazing job, and like the computer graphics were really good. The acting obviously was really good. The kids they cast were good. But it just didn't feel as magical as when I was reading the books.
Right.
So I don't know. But anyway, Tilda Swinton, Ice Queen, she did a great job in this movie, but then George Clooney's in it. John Malkovich is in it.
He was just like the most angry.
Yeah.
And the movie starts out with him being brought into he's a CIA analyst. He's an intelligence analyst for the CIA, and the movie takes place in Washington, and it starts out with him being brought into this room, and basically he's getting demoted. Yeah. And they're telling him like, hey, we're going to take you off of this assignment. Yeah. In fact, we're going to remove you from the whole thing altogether.
And then like even from that first scene, like the Coen brothers comedy comes in, and they're like, he's like, what are you gonna, like, what are you talking about? And then like one guy in the corner of the room, who's supposedly one of his superiors or something like that, is like, you're an alcoholic. And he goes, everybody's an alcoholic compared to you. You're Mormon or something. Like, it was like, it was really funny. So anyway, he gets demoted, but he can't really stomach that. So he ends up quitting. Yeah. And then like, he's like, he goes home and he's telling his wife, like, I'm going to write my memoir. His wife, played by Tilda Swinton, is like, oh, no, you're not. And you can tell she's very successful and very performance and money driven. And so she's cheating on him with George Clooney's character, who's also cheating on his wife. And so there's like, the relationship web is kind of uncanny, because you watch the movie and I would say like the first 20 minutes, it's almost like two different separate stories are happening and being introduced. And I was watching it and I'm like, when are these things going to have something to do with one another? And then they do sort of intersect in this really interesting way. And then everybody kind of like, it's basically like John Malkovich's character's memoirs get kind of leaked in really ridiculous and preposterous manner. And then these two individuals who end up finding it, played by Brad Pitt and a female actress whose name I forget, or never knew because I'm a bad person. You can look that up. Anyway,
it's Frances McDormand.
Okay,
yeah.
Frances.
Yeah. She was in
Fargo, right?
Fargo
yeah.
And
So their characters find this basically this copy of his memoir, and they think that it's top secret CIA stuff, and so they're trying to give it back to him with the hope of getting some sort of reward. But because he's such an angry asshole, he immediately takes it the wrong way, and then they ramp it up and the situation gets escalated and the Russians get involved and people get shot and die and then people try to flee the country, and it's just so preposterous, but really, really funny and so well done. And then all Coen Brothers movies, there's some very serious and dire consequences, but also a lot of humor as well.
Right.
And then the end of the movie
Jeez.
Is a plane crashing?
No, that's like a chopper.
Huh.
Well, sirens haven't started yet. So
yeah, so it's okay.
I'm assuming everything's still okay.
Yeah. Wow.
Damn thing shook the house.
Yeah. It must have been flying pretty low. I wonder if you could have shot it down with a grenade launcher.
I haven't played GTA 5 in a couple months.
I wonder. It's is it a dragon?
I could throw an arrow at it.
Yeah, you could shoot an arrow at it from your elven bow of shocks. Anyway, what Burn After Reading? Good movie. Ends the ending is probably the funniest.
Yeah,
that's part of the movie.
The J.K. Rowling is his name.
No,
J.K. Rowling's J.K.
That's the author of Harry Potter.
Yeah. J.K. Simmons.
Yeah, so J.K. Simmons plays some director up at the CIA, and it's just so funny.
Yeah, but his character is probably one of my favorites, and just his sort of cavalier, okay, what does this mean? And the other guy's like, I don't know. He's like, well, then contact me whenever.
Yeah, he's like, do this, dispose of the body, and contact me whenever you feel it's appropriate.
Whenever it makes sense.
Yeah, whenever it makes sense. Yeah.
But I'm glad you liked it.
I did.
I was surprised you hadn't seen it, but it was one of those movies I kind of like. It was a very successful movie. I mean, it made $130 some million in the box office. So, it's not an unknown movie.
Right.
But
probably appeals to a specific audience. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of off the beaten path as far as that is concerned, as far as Coen Brothers movies are concerned. Probably a lot of people don't know. So interesting. I went and bought a movie called The Men Who Stare at Goats because I thought it was a Coen Brothers movie. And then I got home and found out, in fact, it is not because I read the box. So, they have a definite style, and there are movies that kind of
are influenced by them.
Right,
yeah.
where you can easily get confused and be like, oh, yeah, that's a Coen Brothers movie, but it's not.
Yeah. It's kind of like reaching into the fridge and thinking you're getting a Pepsi and pulling out an RC Cola, and you're like, wait a minute.
Why is this beverage salty?
Yeah. It's nothing like that. That was a bad analogy. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Better Call Saul.
Well, yeah, I don't want to get into it too much, but if you watched Breaking Bad, which a lot of people here did, definitely check out Better Call Saul. I think the first 4 seasons are available on Netflix right now.
I think so, yeah.
And it is a great show. It's a weird show. It's weird that it's good because you kind of know where everything's going, but you don't. And because there's the current, how Saul became Saul, but then there's those little interludes of what happened to Saul after Breaking Bad.
Right. And
so you don't really know what's happening with that story. You don't know where that's going, but it's interesting to see how the tragedy plays out with that.
And there's a lot of cameos from some of the most beloved characters, both good and bad, from Breaking Bad in it. Don't sleep on Better Call Saul. If you like Breaking Bad, you should definitely watch Better Call Saul. I'd say it's a little bit more of it's not as, there's not as much high crime happening.
It's not as suspenseful.
But it's a really good drama, and it's a great character study.
Yeah, I think that the major difference between Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul is that at a certain point, I felt myself no longer in favor of Walter White.
Right.
I kind of like there was a point where I was like, I'm in this show because it is riveting, but I'm not in it because I'm on Walter White's side. I don't feel that I've ever gotten to that point with Saul Goodman.
No.
I feel like even though like Saul has some more like, like less nice traits in his person. This is more like deplorable, dishonest aspects. Like he always has a certain virtue about him,
right,
that really makes you rally for him.
Yeah, he has a code.
Yeah, but also you see, it's not like Walter White, where Walter White was kind of an egomaniac who was unwilling to take people's help, who was unwilling to, who was just like so narcissistic that he couldn't accept anybody else giving him a hand. That's not the same thing with
Saul.
Yeah. With that character, he's had a lot stacked against him. And that's the interesting part. That's, I think, why it's such a good show. And
it's interesting because everybody was going out of their way to help Walter White, and he kept turning it down in creative ways over and over again. And that's like one of the reasons why it became so infuriating. But even though Saul does some pretty reprehensible things at different points in the show,
I feel like all of them you can be like, maybe I would do that too.
Yeah, because it's like, it's not like anyone's trying to help him. He's just kind of like constantly getting shit on, and then coming out every time he faces a challenge and a struggle, he comes out a little bit further ahead and like grows a little bit more. Some of this growth is not like, the best personal growth, but he's a fighter, right? Like he's an underdog, and we all root for the underdog. And I think that's one reason why it's so engaging, but also like, man, the stories are great.
Yeah. Like, it's just really well written.
Yeah. It's really well written. And, there was a TV critic I heard doing a review of the most recent season on the radio, and I'm not a TV critic or an expert by any means, but they said that in their opinion, it was the best, not sequel, what do we call it in TV shows?
Prequel?
Not prequel, like
spin-off.
He said that it was the best spin-off in television history. Not just because the show that it was based off of was so good, but because it's on its own, it's a very good show. So if you liked Breaking Bad, don't sleep on Better Call Saul. It's definitely worth your time. Yeah.
So speaking of all of those things and all of the nerdy stuff that we do, I was thinking, and this is something I really didn't talk to you about, but I was thinking about over the next couple of weeks, maybe doing some streaming on Twitch, like maybe some video game play. We wouldn't necessarily be recording ourselves, but like we can broadcast from Twitch from the Xbox, no problem. I was thinking about doing some like live reads of some of the different gaming novels and stuff. So if people are interested in that, let us know. I mean, we're not just, I don't think like we wouldn't just take it upon ourselves to do it unless people were actually interested in watching or listening or anything like that. So
I think it sounds like a cool thing to do.
So if you listen to this podcast and over the next couple of weeks while we're all shuttered indoors, if you'd be interested in watching us play some games or hanging out with us on Discord and chatting while we do that, let us know.
Yeah. Also, feel free to hit us up on Twitter, rate us on iTunes. That really helps us out to spread this podcast around. We've got some board games at home, but we don't have a lot of two-player games. So if you guys have any like two-player games you'd like to recommend, or shoot, even one-player games that you think are pretty cool, hit us up with those, because as far as I know right now, you can still get things delivered through Amazon.
Yeah, for now you can. Also, one last thing that I wanted to mention, and this is something that some podcasters may know already, so this may not go that far and wide, but for people that have used Zencastr, they have different packages, and most people use the hobbyist because, they don't want to pay for a monthly service. Until I believe July 1st of 2020, Zencastr is taking the cap off of their hobbyist level, which means You can have an unlimited amount of material that you record. Also, they remove the cap on how many people you can have in a single recording. So normally it's just with the hobbyist package, it's just one other person. But now, because it's so hard for people to get together to arrange these meetings, you can have multiple people. You can have, as many people as the system permits. And so if you are looking to podcast, if you run a podcast and you can't get people together, check out Zencastr, because I think that's just awesome. Like, they're not sponsoring this or anything. It's just something I think is really cool that this company is doing to kind of promote unity while we're all kind of stuck. You know?
And, just keep in mind that social distancing doesn't have to mean social isolation. Reach out to your friends and family, check in on relatives, hit up people on Discord. You can still have games online. You can still, connect via social media. Not all your posts have to be like scary news stories.
Yeah.
We can all take care of each other, and we're all in this together. So we'll get through this, and everything will turn out in the end. And I can personally say, just to be a little bit real with you guys, I do suffer from generalized anxiety disorder. I take medication for it. And I have different bouts of, panic and anxiety and sort of intrusive thoughts at different periods of time. And, one thing that has helped me in this situation is just knowing nothing lasts forever. These feelings of panic will not last forever. And if you feel helpless, you can't do anything to help, well, you can do something to help. You can take all of the precautions that all of the healthcare professionals are telling us to take. Wash your hands, cover your cough with your arm. But the biggest thing you can do is just to be a good friend and check in with people, and still, be there for people who might be feeling scared and lonely. So don't hesitate to do that with your loved ones, and we'll all get through this. It's going to be cool.
Yeah. Maybe if we have extra time and we do extra stuff, maybe we might record extra podcasts.
What?
I don't want to get anybody's hopes up, but maybe we'll do more, because what the hell else are we going to do?
I mean, so yes, we can definitely do that as we want to, as we have the inclination to do so. But you guys, this situation blows. It definitely sucks. I want to go out to dinner. I want to go see friends. I want to go be social and do stuff. But also, this is a rare opportunity that we have where basically all distractions have been eliminated. So if you are a creative person and you have wanted to become a content creator, you've wanted to make YouTube videos, you have a great idea for a channel,
right,
you have a great idea for a podcast, you have been wanting to write and finish that novel, pointing at self. Now is the time. I have no excuses.
Right.
I have my 9-to-5 job that I'm still doing, but I'm working from home. Don't have the commute anymore.
Right.
The gym is closed. I can't go do jujitsu. I can't go LARP on the weekends. I have no excuses to not finish this thing that I've started. So use this as an opportunity to kind of kickstart
right,
that kind of project that you've been wanting to get started on for a long
time. Buckle down. Paint that
Yeah.
picture. Imagine how amazing your material will be because you don't have those extra distractions. Just, buckle down and get it done, and we'll see you on the flip side. So,
see you on the flippity flip.
Also, if you have any ideas or any advice, stuff for us to review, to check out, to listen to watch, let us know. Because it turns out eventually we're going to just come to the end of the things that are unique to each of us. So we would love if you had something you wanted us to watch. And then maybe even if you were up to it, we might consider having you on the podcast to talk about it too.
Yeah.
So
hit us up.
Yeah, hit us up. It's the age of the internet. Anything's possible.
It's true. It's true.
All right. Thank you guys for listening.
I don't know. Take care. Enjoy this time of enforced playing hooky.
Yeah. All right. Until next time, we'll talk to you later.
Bye. Hey folks, this is Rachel from UtilityMuffinLabs.com. If you enjoyed the Playing Hooky podcast, think about supporting us. For more podcasts, art, videos, and gaming, go to UtilityMuffinLabs.com. Follow our podcast on Twitter @HookyPodcast, on Instagram and Facebook at our Utility Muffin Labs name, and support us on YouTube at Utility Muffin Labs. Check out our other gaming-related podcasts, 25 Years of Vampire the Masquerade and the Nerdwords podcast. Thank you all for your support. Utility Muffin Labs, consistently rated adequate.